Welcome to the Overshare Hour. We are your hosts, Mackenzie and Jubilee.
Your certified, unofficial, emotional support humans here to read the things that you're probably only brave enough to text your therapist.
Every week, we will dive into the messy, hilarious, complicated, and very human parts of life, from relationships and healing to friendship, chaos, and yes, a lot of oversharing.
Whether you are spiraling, thriving, or somewhere in between, you are safe here. So grab your favorite drink, cancel your plans, and settle in because we're about to overshare like it's our job. Because spoiler alert, it kind of is.
Let's get into it.
All right, friends, welcome to the Overshare Hour. We are so excited. We have been wanting to do a podcast together for the longest time. So, Kenzie, do you want to tell everybody how we know each other?
Yes, I'd love to. Okay, so we are ex-sister-in-laws who are also best friends. I married your brother when I was 18 years old. We met when I was 14 years old and have been through so much of life together. And somehow our relationship has made it out unscathed. So of course, as you do, we are going to start a podcast to talk about all of the things.
There is so much to talk about. And honestly, we are so lucky to have made it this far because we have experienced a lot of crazy ups and downs, even with the people in our lives, in our inner circle, lots of betrayal. So we feel very equipped to give good advice.
I hope so.
We would like to think so, at least. So we thought that it would be fun if we just did a quick 1 minute wrap up of who each of us are. Obviously, I think some of you guys know who we are, but for those of you who don't, Kenzie, do you want to jump in a little overview of your life and your backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I was born and raised in Texas. I met Juby when I was 14 years old, like I said, at church camp, and we became friends. I married her brother. We became quickly family. I joined a cult when I was a teenager. I dropped out of college, joined a Christian evangelical charismatic cult when I was pregnant with my first daughter, and escaped that cult through a wild and crazy series of events, and have since then been deconstructing not only just my religion, but my entire life, and finding out who I am outside of that in my 30s. And that's where I'm at today, figuring it out. How about you?
Oh my gosh, you wrapped that up so quickly. I love it. I also joined a cult as a teenager, as one does. And the cult was parallel to your cult, but definitely separate cults, but also very charismatic. So I joined that when I was 17, went out to California to do a supernatural ministry school. I ended up meeting my ex-husband, Ted. We got divorced over a Walt Disney World burger. There was a lot of domestic violence and some darker things in there. Mm-hmm. And I ended up finding out that he was living a complete double life while we were together. So that has just been crazy. And I have been deconstructing and sharing my story on TikTok for I think only about a year now, really seriously. So that is the overview of me.
Amazing job. Obviously, there are so many details, but that's not what this podcast is about. We are taking everything that we have experienced in life and putting it into these stories of these people and talking about their experiences. Yeah?
Yes. And I'm pretty sure that we are going to draw upon our own life experiences. So you will definitely get to know us very well, probably more than anybody else, because we will be sharing some very niche stories, I am sure, as we go along. But right before we jump in to our advice, just a reminder that we are not therapists. We are just two people sharing our thoughts, opinions, and our overshares. This is not professional advice, but we do hope that it helps you feel less alone.
Absolutely. And stay tuned for the end of the episode where we will have a little bit of time where we talk about our own lives, what we're going through, and overshare with you guys about stuff that we're dealing with currently.
I am really excited about that because it is really going to just be a vent session at the end of every episode. And honestly, our lives are so busy, Kens, that I feel like this is just good for us.
No, it's like our hangout time.
Hangout time, our scheduled forced hangout time. It's fantastic.
Yeah. How else do you have friendships when you're in your 30s, right? You just have to schedule it in. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So do you want to read the first story?
Ooh, I would love to.
You guys had some very good submissions. So we are really happy you guys really came through.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy to pick which ones we were going to do for this episode. So hopefully you guys love what we got for you today. All right. So this first one, I found out my friend's boyfriend is on a dating app. I screenshotted his profile just in case. We're not super close, but we talk every week. I've gone back and forth on whether to tell her. What if she already knows? What if she gets mad at me instead of him? Is it my place to get involved, or should I mind my business? Oh.
That one gave me stress when I read that one. I think the idea that she might already know, slim that she might already know. I think we would like to
Probably
hope
not.
that she already knows. Obviously, there are some people, they're doing their thing, and that's totally cool. But I wouldn't just assume that. And I personally, just cutting to the chase, I think you have to tell her. That is
Yeah.
that is what I think. But I know we have gone through, we actually can draw upon our own experiences because we have had experiences like this where we feel caught in the middle and we don't know exactly what to do.
Yeah, we have. We have a mutual friend who actually, in these kind of scenarios where even like this information was brought to the table, really resisted that information, the kind of like what you're afraid might happen, like that, you can't rule that out, right? You can't rule out that she already knows, but that's probably the exception, not the rule. She probably doesn't know. But also, there's no way for you to know how someone is going to react to this big news. You would hope that they would be grateful. You would hope that they would be wanting this information. But I have had, and you have had experiences with people who are like, actually, I would rather not know that that is happening. And so I guess it boils down to also like, how well do you know this person? Do you think that this person is the type of person who would want to have this information? I guess you can take that into account. But at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is your own moral compass and what you think is right for you. Like, you have this information. What do you want to do with it? Because we are not responsible and we can't control how other people respond to the information that we give them. So how would you feel holding on to that? Is it something that's going to eat at you? Is it going to keep you awake at night? If you feel that feeling, you should tell them regardless on if they're the kind of person that you think maybe would like to not maybe know this information or would really want to know. I would say most people want to know if their partner is not being faithful to them.
Absolutely. Because
I would.
we have no idea what the future holds. I mean, for all you know, your friend 100% would want to know this, and this could backfire in your face if you don't share it. And I know for me personally, if I was being cheated on, I would definitely want to know. And also, it would eat at me. So like you were saying, Ken's, could you keep this to yourself? How would you be able to handle that? I cannot handle secrets like that. I'm a good secret keeper for my friends if they're in relationships and they confide in me. That's pretty much the only time I'm good with secrets. When it comes to my personal secrets, I am the most open book of all time, and I don't necessarily share all of my life on social media. I think some people think they know everything about my life, and I like, guys, there's actually so much more that I don't tell you. I'm kind of selective, but the people in my inner circle know everything.
Yeah.
To the point where Brandon, we've joked before, which I'm like, maybe why it's kind of weird that we joke about this, but he has said, if you ever told me that you cheated on me, I would not believe you.
Wow.
Because I'm so transparent. I'm such an oversharer that just would not happen. So for me personally, if I knew that my friend was going through this, I would have to tell them. And like Ken said, we were put in this very uncomfortable situation where I remember we had a phone call and we said, we have to talk to her.
Yeah.
And it was not really received well. And I think try to, as much as you can, be gentle with your friend, no matter how she responds, especially at first. You know, obviously you can have boundaries if she acts really not okay and lashes out. But I do think it's hard information to hear. And some people will not be happy to hear it. And that is a very human experience. So try to give her grace as you give her this information, and maybe even say like, I have this information. And if you don't want to continue this conversation and you want to go sit with this and reach back out to me when you want to talk, because she might feel trapped. Like she doesn't want to talk to you about this because it's just too much to face. Then maybe also give her that out to call you back.
Yeah. And be gentle with yourself too, because just because someone has a response to something that like you're presenting to them that may not be ideal doesn't mean necessarily that you have done the wrong thing. So this person's initial response could be volatile. It could be, they could shut down, right? That's their nervous system acting in their fight, flight response, right? Yes, totally give space for that. Be aware that it might not be this idealistic, situation, but also be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up or second guess. When you have that gut feeling like you need to share something, share it, do what you feel is right in that moment. And then you kind of just have to like let that person have their feelings because they are valid and it's not your fault.
Yeah, and do what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not your job to tell her, leave him. Like, I think all of us have that in us where we want the best for our friends. But I know personally, when somebody tells you that you have to leave somebody and you're not ready, you can shut down. Yeah. It doesn't feel as safe anymore. And I know for me personally, when I left my abusive marriage and I told people what he had done, the best thing that all of my family did was tell me that it was my decision.
Yeah.
Which was scary for them, very scary for them to say, we support you in what you decide to do. But I needed to hear that for me to think that they were safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had that experience too. When I was in an abusive relationship, you were very highly encouraging me to exit that relationship and leave that relationship. But when I told you I was not ready and gave you my reasons, you were like, okay, right? Like, do I think that you should leave? 100%. Do I think that this person is treating you right? I do not think that they're treating you right. But you didn't then distance yourself from me in our relationship or hold a grudge toward me. You gave me the space to figure that out on my own. And eventually I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the worst thing you can do is further isolate people when they are already going through an extremely isolating experience.
Yes.
So
they need their community.
I think you should definitely tell her.
Tell her.
Tell her.
Tell her. If you're asking the question, it's because you feel like you need to.
Yes, I agree. So jumping into our second submission, we have this one that says, I am a single mother of a beautiful 11-year-old princess. I've dedicated myself to raising my daughter since she was born, and although I've had some romantic relationships, the reality is that I feel alone. I feel that it is me against everyone, and I am sometimes so emotionally exhausted from doing everything by myself that I feel like I just need someone to give me emotional support to achieve it. I desperately feel like I need a partner because I can't anymore. What advice would you give me to overcome this insecurity?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for sharing this. I also have an 11-year-old daughter. And until 2.5 years ago, I also was a single mom, had some relationships, dealt with the loneliness. And I first just want to say that those feelings are valid, but also I would maybe challenge the thought process around it a little bit. I do not see this as an insecurity. I see this desire for community, connection, partnership, help as something very natural and human. It's a very natural desire to want a companion to walk through life with and to raise your children with, and that is not weakness. Just because you've been so strong and you've done all of these things for so long on your own does not mean that it's weak for you to feel like you need a shoulder to lean on. And so I went through all of those feelings, and it's also not something you can just like snap your fingers and have. So it's a hard place to be in, because on the one hand, it's like, how do you survive this part of your life? How do you make it through the loneliness? How do you continue on when you feel like you're completely burnt out, and also hold space for being very accepting and welcoming of that person into your life, like in an energetic sense, right? Like, you don't need to push against that. You don't need to wish it were different. You don't need to beat yourself up for wanting that. Also, you are capable of doing this thing that you're doing because you've been doing it for so long, and the overwhelming feeling that you can't anymore. The biggest thing I can say is let yourself feel that. Let yourself feel burnt out. Let yourself feel like you're at the end of your rope. The more you beat yourself up in your feeling burnt out, the more you're going to feel like you're in that cycle of, I can't do this anymore. So what I did before I met my fiance is really date myself. And I know that sounds cliche, but I spent the entire year before I met him. I came out of an abusive relationship, and the year between that relationship and dating my now fiance, I spent all of the time that I had by myself reading, glass of wine, bubble baths, like in the interest of oversharing, get to know your body, like self-pleasure. Like there's a whole relationship that you can have with you that builds that bond and that strength with yourself that is not only going to get you through that hard time, it's so powerful. Get in nature, go on hikes. If you hate being outside, go to a bookstore, like go see a movie, like do what you enjoy doing and what you would do with someone else. Do that with yourself. And that bond that you build with yourself, you're going to realize that you have a relationship with you. And there is a partnership inside of yourself, which is your soul or your consciousness or whatever that is that maybe you feel out of touch with right now because you are feeling this loneliness. Once I got really in touch with that feeling, I didn't feel the same way anymore about my desperation for the connection, but I did end up getting that connection and can say I'm very, very grateful for it. However, he and I talk often about this time that we had before we met each other of aloneness, like being by ourselves. And we're so grateful that we didn't come into each other's lives sooner because we like desperately needed that time. And we got to know what it's like to be alone and to actually fall in love with that part of yourself too. And it is possible. It's absolutely possible to build and bond with your own self. And I would just say, try that. Give yourself a chance. Love, like figure out how to love who you are. Like it's so cliche to say, well, love yourself. But there are practices that you can put into place that help build that relationship. And it completely changed my life.
Oh my gosh, you're making me tear up, Kenzie. I'm so glad I was like, you should take the lead on this one as a mother of an 11-year-old, which by the way is my niece. So I am obsessed with Kenzie's kids because they are my babies. Which, okay, can I share a funny story about your daughter? She sent me a chain mail a couple days ago. Did you receive it?
Of course, I received it.
Okay, guys, do you remember those chain mails that was like, send this to 15 people or you're going to have a really bad year? So her daughter only texts me once every couple months. Like they text through their iPad. And I was at a friend's wedding and I got this and I was dying laughing because I was like, it's reached the generation. It has like, reached them.
It was literally like, if you send this to 15 people, you're going to get an iPhone and your favorite pet and blah, blah, blah. And so then my youngest daughter gets in the car when I picked her up the other day and she was like, so mommy, I sent it to 15 people, like, are you gonna get me an iPhone and a new dog? I was like, well,
you're like, maybe life doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
as your grandparents.
Right, not me.
That's so funny. Yeah, when she sent it I was like, I cannot believe that this is still going and that it's affecting I should have responded. I didn't respond, but it was very childlike. It was saying, if you don't send this, you're going to get bad grades. So that was cracking me up. Yeah, but my advice was very similar. Obviously, I am not a mother, so I can't fully identify with that feeling. But I think I have similar advice for that as far as it is not weakness to want that. I think it's so human. Everybody wants that. Well, not everybody, but people who crave intimacy, of course they want that. And that is not a weakness and that doesn't say anything about you. And at the end of the day, you get to realize that you have been doing this alone. Like, yes, you feel burnt out. Yes, you feel like you can't do it any longer, but you have. And I'm sure that you have felt this way at times throughout. I mean, she's 11. I'm sure you have felt this way throughout her life, that this is hard and you don't want to do it alone anymore, but you continue to do it. So I have full faith that you can and you will, but it's also extremely normal to want something more. So my advice would be to seek out community. That is one thing that I really was thinking, that it's not bad to want human connection or to want a relationship. So by all means, date, have fun, get to know people, make it not so serious if that makes it have less pressure, but also find a hobby. Me and my sisters, we've had so much fun going to puppy yoga. They have it in our city where they take some puppies from the, what's it called? The adoption place. What are they called? The Humane Society.
Humane Society, yeah.
Yeah, they bring them and you can do yoga and then they have little puppies running around. And I know that there's a lot of pottery classes. I have found that it's such a good way to make friends as an adult because it's hard. to make friends as an adult, and I'm sure as a parent to make friends. So even if it's not in a romantic sense, at least you can build your community around you, and hopefully that can fill parts of your heart that really need just that intimacy, because I think that is a big part of being human. Honestly, if not the most. And I think I've read studies that say that your friendships have a lot to do with your personal happiness. And going back to getting to know yourself, I loved that you said that, Kenz, because I know we have both read The Artist's Way, which that is for people who are writers or artists or just creative people. And one thing that she says is to take yourself out on dates, to go out, do something new every week. And I'm a big self-help fan, so I read this other book. What was it called? I don't remember what it was called. I will try to comment it at some point. But one thing that he said is that they've done a lot of studies that people who do new things are more fulfilled. So he said, even if you're taking a different route to work, even if you're going to a different coffee shop and getting the exact same order, those people have more satisfaction in their life because they are experiencing new atmospheres. So I would just encourage you to try to step outside of your comfort zone, and hopefully that will be able to provide you a little bit of a boost while you are going through this time. But also, do not feel shame about wanting a partner. You absolutely deserve it. But we absolutely know that you can continue to do this yourself because you have been, and you have that strength in yourself.
Yeah, it just dawned on me that I feel like I need to say this. She says, I have dedicated myself to raising my daughter since she was born. And all of a sudden I realized, what if she's feeling like mom guilt about prioritizing herself? So if you happen to be feeling that way, like, well, dating takes time, putting myself out there takes time, even taking myself on dates or building friendships, going out on girls' nights, like those things take time away from your daughter, right? You are so allowed and have every bit of permission to prioritize yourself as a human being. You have dedicated the last 11 years to this person. You are not going to stop now. And you shifting and centering yourself even slightly in your own life does not take away from what you've given and will continue to give to her. If anything, it's going to model for her what it looks like to take care of yourself. And that is a gift. Like, it's a gift that you can give for her to see you doing things that you enjoy, even if that doesn't include her. Building relationships with friends, taking care of yourself. You are going to be modeling for her as she goes into this next phase of life, out of like being a little kid into a teenager here soon, like what it looks like to develop those self-care abilities and like to love yourself that way. And I think that that's not abandonment and it's not neglect. It's literally good parenting to model that for her. And so if you are feeling any sort of mom guilt, like I know I have and still do at so many times, release yourself from that guilt. And it's really okay for you to center yourself.
And try to remember that bad parents who are not good, okay, they do not think about these things. Okay, so it just shows that you love your child. You adore her and you want the best for her. And it is okay to take a little bit out of your week to go spend time with yourself, for yourself, and build some community outside of just being a mom, which is also beautiful. But,
absolutely.
There is a lot to life.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next one, I think we're going to have a lot to say about this one. Okay, I went on a first date and trauma dumped so hard, like told him about my ex's infidelity and my dad's issues, like hard. He was kind, but I could tell I overwhelmed him. I haven't heard from him since. Should I follow up and apologize or just take the L and be more chill next time?
I am shouting over here. Do not apologize. That is how I feel. Okay, so let me tell you, I think that your person is not going to shy away from this, and they are not going to ignore you or not reach out to you after this date. My husband, Brandon, is the most amazing person. And if you guys know my story, I was crazy. Okay. So I left my ex-husband, but I own it because I would not do anything differently. I think whenever I tell this part of my story, I know that so many people would judge or think it's insane. And I really don't care because it is the best thing that has ever happened to me. But I left my abusive marriage and I filed for divorce a couple months later. And guys, okay, I'm going to share things that I've never shared before. Okay, when I got back, I reached out to my ex-boyfriend. Okay, I reached out to my ex-boyfriend because I was feeling lonely. I had this high school on and off boyfriend that we met up throughout the years, and we were high school sweethearts. And I was feeling so lonely and sad after I filed for divorce. And I ended up finding out that he was in a relationship, which I totally respected. So we stopped talking after that, but I was, crying in the bathtub about feeling so alone. And I think that there's something about feeling like there's always that person who's always there and who loves you and who has known you since we had known each other since kindergarten. So this idea that, okay, I can't talk to this person or whatever. I ended up downloading Bumble because I just wanted to see who was out there. And I had not been on the dating field for the longest time. And I ended up meeting Brandon, and I told him from the beginning, I said, okay, this is my situation and I'm not ready to date yet. And I ended up deleting the app after I think a couple days. And then I gave him my Instagram though, because I didn't want to ghost him. I thought that that would be mean. So I didn't ghost him and we continued to talk. And he said, let's just go to coffee and it will be chill vibes. So we went to coffee and I trauma dumped on this man so hard. And whatever you're picturing, it's worse. We went to coffee and immediately we're talking about religion. What do we believe? What are our deep rooted moral compasses? And he loved it. He ate it up. He said, do you want to go on a walk? And we ended up going on a walk and we walked and talked for 7+ hours where I proceeded to tell him about every abusive thing that I had ever been through. I told him about how I was afraid that my ex was going to kill me on our cruise, and I ended up sobbing. We were sitting on the side of the sidewalk and I was crying and I said, I really thought that he was going to kill me. And it was the first time that I had ever vocalized that. And it's with this random dude from Bumble. And Brandon scooted over closer to me and put his arm around me. And I don't know, it just felt safe and good. And he did not run for the hills. And I think going back to your question, should you apologize and tell him, I am sorry that I opened up this much? I think that you are a beautiful and open and vulnerable person, and you deserve that energy back because make no mistake, not everybody is like that, and people are wired differently. If he's not like that, that's fine, whatever, but you are. And there are people who will meet you there and who will not run for the hills. They will be so overjoyed that you are honest and transparent. And one thing, never shared this. Every time I ask Brand, what do you love about me? Because I'm such a girl. I say, what do you love about me? And he always says my genuinity. That's his favorite thing about me. And his favorite thing about me is that I overshare. I tell my feelings. I always say what's on my mind. And I do not think that you should apologize or really reach out to him. I think it's just not a match. And you don't need to feel weird or guilty or awkward. It just is what it is.
It just is what it is.
Yeah. What do you think?
100%. Oh, 100%. Do not apologize to that man. And not because anything is wrong with him, right? Just like you're saying, there's nothing wrong with someone being overwhelmed or maybe not ready, or that's just not how they communicate, but you're not looking for that person. You're looking for the person who is going to love that part of you, that's going to want to know you. And you clearly are the kind of person who wants to be known on a very deep level. And so there's nothing to apologize for because you didn't do anything wrong, right? Should he have maybe let you know, it's not a match? Sure. It's okay for you to be feeling this and normal for you to be feeling this anxiety, probably because you feel ghosted, not because you did something wrong, right? Your nervous system is kind of heightened right now because you didn't hear back from this guy. But similarly with myself, my fiance and I, we jumped right into it before our first date. Like we met on Hinge, and our text messages are like paragraphs and paragraphs that turned to voice notes that turned to the overflow of that into our first date for hours, and emotions, and are talking about our childhood traumas and everything we've ever been through. And it just worked for us. What I will say, because I 100% agree, your person or one of the people that would be a good match for you, right? Like there's a spectrum of compatibility, right? Someone who you are compatible with is going to love that about you. However, I will say, if you are feeling, and only you can say this for yourself, if you are feeling this anxiety because of his response in feeling like you overwhelmed him and also him not reaching out, if you can look deep down and be like, the root of my anxiety is his response, let it go. You're good. Move on. You will find the person. If you're feeling like you have a pattern of oversharing that makes you feel out of alignment with what feels safe to you, like you maybe feel this way often, you feel like I would prefer to have more boundaries or like a slower pace to how I unfold my stories, right? I've had moments like this where I come out, this is not just with dating, but friendships too, or any kind of new people that I meet, where I leave and I think to myself, do I feel like I was safe? And do I feel like maybe next time I want to make sure I feel emotionally safe to share before I share, and like maybe pace differently with certain people? Like now that I know how I was received by that person, I realize I'm going to share differently with them next time. I think when it comes to dating, you don't ever have to see this guy again. But in general, for oversharers like us, I have had to find boundaries with like what feels good to me in certain dynamics and what doesn't. Like I share about my life very differently at work than I do online, that I do with you, right? I have found those boundaries because I have pushed myself or gone past maybe my boundary that I wasn't aware of, and then been like, you know what? I don't think that that person is who I want to do that with. And then that's more of like self-reflection. But in terms of actually apologizing to someone for being your open, beautiful ass self, never in a million years. Never in a million years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that because I have experienced that. I mean, I am an open and honest person, but I do think that it's so natural for me to overshare that there have been times where I overshare with people that I don't really feel safe with, and then I go home and I kick myself.
Yeah.
And I had a pastor once who she was actually really cool. And one thing that she would call this was a vulnerability hangover. And I think it's the perfect way to describe it, where you feel like, oh my gosh, vulnerability hangover, that didn't feel good. Yep. That didn't feel safe. I really wish I hadn't said that. So I think maybe ask yourself, is it his reaction that's causing that? Or do you actually feel like maybe I was just filling silence? Because I know for me, I hate silence. It's one of my downfalls. Like my sisters know, every time we hang out, I cannot be in the car, even with people I love. I can't be in the car with Brandon and my sisters and nobody be talking. Somebody has to be talking, and it will be me.
Yes.
Because I need there to be conversation going on. I'm like, this is awkward. I hate awkward silences. So there have been times in the past where I find myself oversharing about situations at work or oversharing about my family just because I feel like it's awkward and I need to fill it with something. And the only thing I can think to talk about is the deep trauma that is going on in my life.
Yes.
So I do think that that is a very good question to ask yourself, but absolutely either way, no matter what your answer is, do not apologize to this man. You don't know him like that. No. And that's okay. You don't owe that to him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if he wasn't feeling it, he wasn't feeling it. But I really believe that what is meant for you will come to you. And he would feel a pull to you, even if it was quote unquote too much, which I know, Kenzie, you have shared that that's like a very deep feeling that you've been afraid of, like being
like
too
a core
much.
wound.
A core wound, of being too much. And you are not too much. Whoever is meant for you will be like, you are the perfect amount of you.
Yeah. My current relationship has been healing me for 2.5 years from that core wound of feeling too much, because I'm just constantly met with, so what else is there? Tell me more about that. Right. And so there are people in the world, not that you need other people to heal you or validate you, but we do heal in relationships as well. And so I know that firsthand, just like you do, that there will be someone who's like, give it to me. Tell me everything. The more you tell me, the more I like you. The more you share, the more I want to hang out. Like that's the vibe. And you will feel that energy pretty quickly, I would say.
Absolutely. All right. For our next one, I think a lot of people are going to relate to this. So I, 21 female, am a pastor's kid in the Midwest, and I was raised in the mindset of no sex before marriage. This is fine, and I have followed it into my early adulthood. The issue arises with my boyfriend, 23 male, and we have been together for 2 years, and we've slowly been trying more and more stuff, inching closer to actual sex. The main reason is that I am unable to do anything without feeling shame. He is not pressuring me in any way and has been very patient with me through this. He only tries new things when I say that I am ready. It's just so difficult for me to enjoy it because of the mental barrier. Despite us trying, I am unable to reach. We still haven't had real sex, and I don't think that I want to. I'm so scared of disappointing my family. My mom cried when she found out that my boyfriend and I slept in the same room together because we were getting too intimate. I can't move in with him until marriage, which has hurt both of us. And on top of this, my parents are still hesitant about us getting married in the future because he is of a different religion. I love my parents, and they are the kindest people in the world, so I would never want to hurt them. What should I do? I feel like we both feel this one very deeply because we were very much raised in the do not have sex before marriage circles.
Yeah, I would say I feel it on every layer of the onion, right? I want to be sensitive in how we answer it because I guess my question is really maybe why don't you want to have sex? Is maybe where the main question lies, because there are so many questions that I could ask, but it's why don't you want to have sex? Where is the fear coming from? Are you able to identify your true feelings about sexual encounter versus your parents' feelings and how you would feel if they knew about your sexual encounter, and how much of those things are intertwined, right, into how you feel about it on your own? For me, just, was so feeling such shame about my sexuality growing up my entire life. But I never even stopped to pause and ask myself how I actually felt or believed about it, because my belief system was so intertwined and entangled with what I had learned in the church, what my parent expected of me, what my youth group leaders, friendships expected from me, judgment that I might receive, things like that it wasn't even my own feelings. It was just everyone else's feelings and my subscription to them. And it took until my late 20s to undo that and to really look at that for the first time. That's the first thing that I would say is this might not be an easy answer. What should I do? And then we'll give you an answer. And that's what we think you should do. Because I really think it's more of an introspective journey of figuring out how you feel and doing the work of figuring out what you really believe about sex. And if you're still, if you are Christian or you're still, following, your faith and you still subscribe to your faith, then take that to God. Pray yourself, get to a place where you feel comfortable asking those questions in the own privacy of your own private prayer life and your own relationship with God, because you might start to have some different perspective on it. The next thing that I will say is, how do you define sex and what has defined that for you? Because I also really held this belief that sex was intercourse for a very long time, and have grown out of that belief now to have a completely definition of sex for myself and what that means. I don't define it personally as just intercourse. There are other things that I would believe are sex for me that have to do with relationship and intimacy and how things feel. I also understand that not everyone feels the same way. I think basically what I'm saying is we are allowed to have our own definitions for what sex is, when it's okay for us, and when we choose to do it. But if we don't give ourselves the freedom to explore those questions privately, because we always feel like we owe that information to others, it is really easy to stay stuck in the shame cycle. And so the only thing that I can really say honestly is it is okay to have your own perspective as a 21-year-old adult person, you are allowed to start asking yourself these questions and define them for yourself. And that will start to maybe push you toward being a little bit relieved from the shame that you feel from the voices of others around you, so that you can make your own decision about what you should do from a place of knowing inside of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Kenzie and I, the hard thing about this question is that everybody has a different opinion when it comes to this. So we want to be sensitive to the fact that other people have different perspectives on premarital sex. We personally, we are going to be so honest with you that we are fine with it. Yeah. Like it doesn't, I don't believe it to be wrong, but that's my own personal decision. And I do think that everybody has to decide for themselves what they are comfortable with. And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with if you think it's a sin. It just has to do with, are you comfortable with that before marriage? So as I'm reading your submission, I see you say that you have been following this rule and this is fine. You know, if you were in front of us, I would love to be like, what do you mean it's fine? Are you happy with it? Is this something that you're just like, okay, well, as long as I get to do everything else that's not technically sex. And then you also say that you think that you don't want to. You said we still haven't had real sex, and I don't think I want to. So that makes me feel like you don't want to, which then you shouldn't. That's how I feel, that if you don't want to, then you shouldn't. But I do think that you don't need to feel these layers of shame associated with what you are comfortable with. So say you're comfortable with X, Y, and Z, but you just don't want to have sex. Well, then that's fine, you know, and you don't need to feel that level of shame. And what really stuck out to me is how much you love your parents. Yeah. I love my parents so much. They're not perfect. I do love them. I choose not to talk about their imperfections online because I'm obsessed with them. I love them, and I think that they're great people. But when me and my husband first got together, my mom was not thrilled. She was not thrilled because I was freshly getting divorced. And I remember I got on her bed because they helped me leave my ex. So I got on her bed. We were chatting. We would have these girl chats at night. And I remember asking, as a 26-year-old who had already been married and going through a divorce, I said, Mom, am I allowed to keep secrets from you? Yeah. Which in my mind, I could not keep secrets from anybody. It's just who I am. And I remember I had been seeing Bran for about a month now, and it was eating me alive because I felt like my mom, as a 26-year-old, my mom deserved to know what was going on in my life. And I said, Mom, am I allowed to have secrets? And she told me yes, actually. And I proceeded to tell her about Brandon. I don't know why I did, because it was just eating at me. I can't not share. And I ended up saying, I met this guy, we've been hanging out. And she said, please tell me you're not in love with him. That's literally what she said. She said, please tell me you're not in love with him. And I love my mom. She wants the best for me. And she thought that that was not okay. She thought you should not be dating. Please tell me that you have not found somebody that you're jumping to. And unfortunately for her, I did. And I'm obsessed with him. And now we are married. And I had such a deep fear of disappointing my parents. And to the point where me and Brandon, when we went on our first weekend getaway together for my birthday, I had so much anxiety going on that trip, and I thought, oh my gosh, my parents, they'd be so mad at me. And here I am, a divorced woman, 26 years old, feeling like I owe them this. And I feel like for you, you know, you're only 21, so you're younger, but it's not a far leap to say that you would also feel this way at 26, because this is so deeply ingrained. And I think that I just didn't want to hurt my parents. And my husband has really helped me realize that it is not my job to not disappoint them. And honestly, I disappointed them so much throughout our relationship. We went on multiple vacations. My parents knew what was going on, but my dad still gave his blessing when Brandon went and asked. And they love him. They love him. And they're adults. They will adjust. I think that there is this fear that you have to parent your parents, but you don't. And you're allowed to be and decide what is right for you. And, you know, you're saying that your mom cried when y'all stayed in the same room together. Okay. I would challenge you that you are allowed to have secrets. Because I think that that was the biggest thing that I really had to get past, was feeling like my parents needed to know every aspect of even my intimate life, just growing up in purity culture. So whether that be you and your boyfriend decide to not have sex, you decide to wait until marriage, more power to you. But if you decide that you want to, that feels right, and you want to let go of that shame, your parents don't need to know. You are an adult. You don't owe them every aspect of your private life. And I think that that's something that a lot of us who have grown up in these circles have to really deconstruct and let go of. And I did want to say, which, oh my gosh, I have the book next to me because I brought it for this question. This book, it is called Come As You Are. It has healed me so much. I recommend it to every single person. My husband is an angel because he was not even a reader. And I said, will you read the sex book with me?
Yes.
And he did. And it's so beautiful. It talks about how couples have different drives and they have different interests. You might have different kinks, and it is such a shame-free book. And I recommend it to everybody because it is good for people who aren't Christians and are Christians. There's nothing unchristian in this book. Okay. Cool. So anybody who's afraid that maybe this will not go along with your moral code, if we have any Christian listeners, it's not bad. It can be listened to as husband and wife or just people who are dating. It really helps you get to know your partner on that level and learn to communicate. And I will highly recommend it for the rest of my life because it is very healing and really helps you let go of shame.
Yeah. And to just piggyback onto the communication aspect, it sounds like you have an amazing partner. Like it sounds like you said that he doesn't pressure you, that he's okay with going at your pace, even though maybe he doesn't feel the same way for himself or have the same hesitations or fears as you do. He seems to be really open to letting you work through that and like pace it based on what you're comfortable with. If that's the case, which it seems to be, communicate to him about it. Have this conversation. I would really encourage you to, if you feel like you're really working through a lot of this shame and this guilt and just trying to figure out where you land, even if that means you don't land at sex, right? Like you land at XYZ, like you were talking about, in this process of figuring out who you are in this situation and what you are comfortable with, allow him into those conversations and be vulnerable. And it might help you to have that safe sounding board with this person that you are intimate emotionally with, to be able to find that safety to let some of the walls down inside of you to just start to process it and work through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that, and some people can disagree with me, and I am fine with people disagreeing. So just know on this podcast, if you guys hate our advice, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're not all going to agree all the time. Mm-hmm. So I will say that even if you guys decide to not have sex before marriage and you decide to wait, I still think that reading this book is a good idea. And I think that, and this is just my opinion coming out, everybody can disagree with it, but I think that it is good to have some level of sexual intimacy, whether that be sex or just fooling around. Because for me personally, I got married to my ex and we were not the most sexually compatible, and people can argue that it is not very important. I do think that I've seen it be a huge problem in people's relationships. So I don't think that it's wrong to get to know each other on that level, even if you're not going all the way, even if it's just something really PG, that's fine. But just making sure that you guys have good communication skills for what feels good. I liked when you did that, and I think that that is very important leading into marriage.
Again, you're right. Lots of people might disagree with that, but as a divorced person and someone who's been in relationships, I would say it is, for me personally, incredibly important to have some sort of understanding of how you work on a physical level and how you communicate through that and the chemistry and all of that. Okay, for our next story, are you ready for this question?
I am so ready.
Okay. Is it toxic to want my birthday to be a big deal? My boyfriend didn't plan anything this year, not even a card. I ended up planning my own dinner and he just showed up like a +1. It made me feel like I'm asking too much just to be celebrated. But now I don't know if I should say something or just lower my expectations next year. Am I being dramatic or is this a red flag? What do you think?
I wonder if we're not going to agree, because I feel like this really depends on the person. So for me personally, I am such a birthday person to the point where I'm very over the top. Kenzie knows this. Do you remember when I made everybody dress up as Harry Potter character?
Yes.
For my birthday?
Yes.
I planned that entire thing by myself. And my ex-husband, who was the worst, he threatened to not show up to my party. He was such an abusive person. So that's one thing that abusers often do. They try to ruin events for you. But I had made all of the do-it-yourself stuff for my birthday party. And I've always kind of been like that. I really love my birthdays. And I would say that this year is the first year that I'm not super over planning my birthday, only because I'm so busy. But I don't think it's bad to want your birthday to be a big deal. But I would say that I think that we would need more information on your boyfriend to know, how does his family view birthdays? Does he view his birthday as a big deal? Because I do know that some families don't view it as big of a deal, and maybe that could have something to do with it. So my first question would be, have you communicated to him how big of a deal it is? And have you communicated to him that you would like some help? Or did you just totally take this under your wing and say, this is exactly what I want? And he might kind of think like, she has a vision, she knows exactly what she wants, and maybe he's kind of taking a step back. I don't love that he was just not even bringing a card. Didn't she say that?
Yeah, he didn't bring a card.
Yeah, I don't know about that. So I think that there might be some red flag behavior in there, but I would need some more information to be able to make a definitive thing on your boyfriend. But I don't think that you are being too much. I think that it would just require a little bit more communication, as far as if you communicate these things and he still refuses, he doesn't bring a card, he's just acting like some plus one, that is when I would be pretty concerned.
Yeah, actually, our advice is the same. I would say 100% it's not a red flag yet. Mm-hmm. But I think that the only way you will be able to know if this is a red flag, also, you're not being dramatic at all. It is totally okay for you to want to be celebrated 100%. So if you want that, if that's a want and a need, and you communicate to that to him, and he's like, well, I think that's dumb, and like, you're being dramatic and birthdays are stupid, then you have your answer, right? But if he's like, oh my God, babe, I didn't realize that it was that important to you, like 100%, like, how can I help? Or at least shows like effort in his own way, right? Like that you really feel like that effort is being put forth, or that care and that attention is being given without minimizing how you feel, then I don't think it's a red flag. I think it's just a personality, life, what people value, what people don't value. But I think that, again, just like you said, there's not enough information. So the next step would be to be very honest and vulnerable about how you feel, and then you will know in his response how to move forward. But if he makes you feel dramatic, if he makes you feel like you shouldn't, value your birthday, that is absolutely information for you, because you're not, and you should be celebrated if you want to be.
Yes. And it is absolutely okay to want to be celebrated on your birthday. I know, like, my husband, he's super chill about his birthday. So I do think that different families have different things. His family, the extent of birthdays is like going out to dinner on your birthday. Whereas my family, I was always surrounded by big extravagant things where we had themes and where we made it kind of like a weekend kind of thing. And I think that families just have different ways of approaching it. Yep. The red flag would be if he doesn't listen to you and doesn't act, I don't know, like he doesn't hear you out or makes you feel dramatic for feeling that way. But you are not too much. I think many of us, we want to feel celebrated. Absolutely.
Yes, and that's okay. You should be.
Speaking of that, my birthday is coming up.
I know. What are we doing for your birthday?
I don't know. This is the first one where I'm kind of like, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. But I've just been so busy that it hasn't even, I don't know.
Been a thought.
I'm like, maybe a game night. But I've also thought maybe a massage would be nice.
Ooh, you should.
I've been so
I know
stressed.
a lady. I'll give you the information. I like literally know a lady.
You do not know a lady.
I know a lady, and she's the best.
Okay,
her name's
send
Yaya.
her to me.
I will.
I'm excited
send you
about
Yaya's
that.
info.
Because that's my thing. I don't like going to random people. All right, so that is it for this week's advice. But before we go, we want to jump into our little overshare moment. I am so excited about this, to have just a time where we vent to you guys about what is going on in our life. It will be different every time. And for me personally, oh my gosh, Ken's, this week has been absolutely crazy because
Tell me.
I was in a wedding this week. I was a bridesmaid in my good friend's wedding, and I actually just met her last year. So this was the fastest friendship of all time. Her now husband is in my husband's band, and it has been the most convenient friendship because she comes over all the time during the week and we get to spend time together, and you've met her. We've gotten to have some game nights together, and I just love her so much. And also, for anybody who listens to my podcast, Healedish, she is going to be on Healedish at some point to share. Yeah, she's going to share about her relationship with her ex and the betrayal trauma that she went through there. So stay tuned for that. But this week has been so busy because we had the Bachelorette, and her sister lives in Hawaii. So we did the Bachelorette on a Tuesday.
I was wondering why I did it on a Tuesday.
Yes, because her sister came in, I think on Sunday, and then we had to plan a little bit. So I ended up renting this Airbnb, and guys, it was, imagine the raunchiest bachelorette. No, she wanted all of the penis stuff. So we had a lot of that stuff, and it was very fun. And there was this really fun game that we found on TikTok where we turned all of the girls who came to the Bachelorette into AI men, which was so funny. I put everybody's pictures into chat and I said, turn them into men with like a blue background. And they turned us all into men. And then Lizzie had to look at them, and I asked her questions and said, like, who's the most likely to ask you out, or who's the most likely to cry after sex? Like, funny questions. And, whoever she picked had to drink. So it was like a cute
that's
little,
so fun.
It was hilarious. That was the winner of the night. And
yeah.
The wedding was 2 days ago. Yeah, the wedding was 2 days ago, and it was a small wedding. It was like 65, which was so nice to just be able to be with everybody who like really loves them and knows them. And I wore an orange dress, so that was...
You did.
I did. I was nervous. I told her, put me in any color. I'll do whatever you want. So she said she wanted spring colors, and they turned out so beautiful. And you should have seen her veil. She had a beautiful like flower veil. I'll have to send you pictures. And it was just really awesome. But I am very tired. I will say, because the day after, they invited all of us to come to his parents' house to eat breakfast the morning after the wedding. So it was so sweet and I loved it, but we were so tired. Oh my gosh, I was falling asleep this little breakfast the next day.
Were y'all like dancing and drinking? Was it like a late night?
Absolutely. So Lizzie told us, she tasked me and Brandon, do not let the dancing die. So Brandon took this very seriously. So actually the dancing vibes kept going on for the majority of the night, but there were a couple songs where it was literally only Brandon. He's just out there dancing by him. I wasn't even out there because I went to the bathroom, and he is just vibing. And anybody who doesn't know Brandon, you have to know, like, social anxiety fears this man. He is.
Yes.
He is just the happiest person. So I'm sure I'll be posting videos on social media. And one of Lizzie's bridesmaids, she ended up stealing my phone while we were dancing to Lover, and she took a video of me and Brandon. Aww. She said, sorry to be a creeper, but you guys looked so cute. So,
that's so cute.
Yeah.
Well, you will definitely have the same task at my wedding. So.
Oh, absolutely. And we killed it.
Yeah. I'm sure you did.
Which I am so excited, Kenzie, for your wedding.
Thanks. I know. I think it's going to finally happen. I think it's going to happen in October 2026, but I think it's finally, like, I don't think we're going to postpone the date anymore. Maybe that'll be another overshare for a different time, but I'm constantly postponing my wedding.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, it's so much work, but
yeah, not because we don't want to get married, but just because of the logistics, and it's just life, and we're like, oh, okay, we'll get married later, but we want to get married so badly.
I know. Do it. Tell me what to do. Give me tasks. Yes. I'm used to being asked to do stuff. So,
well, as we get closer, you will be tasked.
Yes. Do you want to jump into your overshare?
I'm going to share. Yeah, I'm going to do my little overshare of the week. So I am 32 years old in August. I'll be 32. Holy motherfuck. And like, how did that happen? I don't know. I don't like saying that.
We're 18. Anyway, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right? I just got my wisdom teeth taken out. It's been a few weeks ago. Okay. And this process has been ongoing. So I got my wisdom teeth taken out because I was having pain. I knew it was coming. When I went in to get my wisdom teeth removed, like it was an emergent situation. So I went into the emergency dentist or whatever. And they were like, yeah, we're definitely taking them out today, but it'll be a quick yes.
So was it extreme pain? Like what caused this emergency? Did they tell you
Yes.
anything? Okay.
No, I was in extreme, excruciating pain. Like I couldn't eat. Like it was terrible, right? So I went in and I had a feeling it was my wisdom teeth because I like the placement of the pain. So I go in, they did an x-ray of my mouth and they were like, you definitely have an infection on the left side. We're going to take all 4 out, just get it over with. But my right side, they didn't hurt at all, but they were impacted. So they were like lying and like going underneath my other teeth or whatever. And so the surgeon told me it's going to be a quick process, 30 minutes tops. Like I'll just go in real quick and take them out. I'm like, okay, awesome. So they sedated me. I woke up in the middle of them extracting my teeth from the sedation. I felt everything. It was really, really terrible. And I'm just like, and so they like, I guess gave me more of the medicine because I like went back out after like I passed out again. So I don't really know. I don't know where I was in the world at that point. I just know I woke up and I was in pain. Come to find out, I leave the dentist or I leave the surgeon's office. And as I'm kind of like coming to, my fiance was like, that took 2+ hours. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? That was supposed to take 30 minutes. He was like, no, babe, you were in there for over 2 hours. I was starting to get worried. I was going to give it a few more minutes and then be like, is she okay? But they came out and they were like, she did great. Everything went swimmingly. Everything's fine. Like, go home, right? I come home. Couple days later, I'm in excruciating pain. My mouth is not just a little chipmunky. My left side was actually fine. The side that was initially really painful was like not that bad, but my right side was so inflamed. I was just like in excruciating pain. I spiked a fever. It was like a 103 fever. And I'm like, okay, something's wrong. So I call the surgeon. This was like 2 days later. After it getting worse, I call the surgeon, tell them what's going on. And they're like, you know what? We ordered you an antibiotic. We did end up finding that you had incredible amounts of infection on both sides that we had to, and sorry, this is gross and TMI, had to drain. We tried to get all of it out, but we weren't able to get every last bit out of the infection. They sent me home that way, told my fiance everything went great, she's totally fine, knowing that I had an infection that they didn't notify me of at the time of leaving, and they didn't prescribe me an antibiotic when I left. So I went 2 days of this infection getting worse, and they still just said, take this low-dose antibiotic, and if you don't feel better in the next couple of days, you can call back and we'll bring you in for some IV fluids. It's literally what they said. And then he goes, I'll pray for you. I'll be praying for you.
Wait, I'm going to throw something. He did not say
he literally said,
he
said, I'll be praying for you. You guys, that night, I ended up in the emergency room. It got so bad. We had to call my dad over here to watch the kids. My fiance got home from work and he was like, we are not waiting. Like, I am taking you to the ER. I had such a bad infection, like from my blood work that I was looking at, right? And the CT scan that they did, my infection was so bad. They were worried that I was going to go in to like have sepsis. Like it was like nearing sepsis levels. And I was like, they were like, this is actually life threatening. So if you were not to get it treated tonight with 2 bags of IV fluids or IV antibiotics, a steroid shot, and then a very strong oral antibiotic that I went home with, they were like, you absolutely could have died.
Oh my God, Kenzie, I didn't even know that. That's so scary.
So all of that to say, I came home, I started to feel better, and I started to think about it, and I'm like, you know what? Forget this. I'm not paying for the surgery. Mm-hmm. They absolutely, it was malpractice. They did not notify me of any of the things that were wrong with me. And if I had taken their post-operation medical advice and just waited it out with a low-dose antibiotic, I may not be here right now. Mm-hmm. So I petitioned for a full refund and they are going to give it to me. But however, I'm wondering if I need to take it a step further because now I have this $3,200 hospital bill that they could have prevented. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, if I should like ask them to see if they can pay for that as well. But yeah, I'm in need of legal advice when it comes to that one.
I would maybe ask them if they would pay for that as well, because that is ridiculous. Yeah. That is so scary. I didn't realize that it was that life-threatening. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I wasn't on the brink in that moment, but they said, had you let this infection go further because it was of where the infection was, it could have been really bad. So
My gosh. And so this ties back into the wedding. My sister actually got her wisdom teeth taken out like a week after Kenzie. And my sister had canceled it a few times because she was so nervous to do it. And then like Kenzie had posted about it. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, my sister's going to cancel her appointment. No, it was so funny because I was like, this is the worst timing ever. But luckily, things went well for my sister. Hers went pretty well, but she was in a lot of pain at the wedding. And it was like 5 or 6 days later. Yeah, she was in a good amount of pain at the wedding. So, gosh, that's no joke. I had my wisdom teeth taken out and I was the worst. I cried to my mom and I was like, I'm dying. I'm gonna die. And I started having a panic attack. I was like, I can't breathe. And my mom, she's the most chill person. She was like, you can breathe. You're fine.
You're breathing right now. You're talking to me.
She was like, you're breathing. It's all in your head. And I was like, I'm dying. She's a nurse.
Like I was dying too. She's like, you're fine, GB. It's okay.
She's a nurse. So she's super cool, calm, and collected. And she was like, you can definitely breathe. You're fine, you know. But it is weird going under. It is a very strange feeling. I went under for, well, obviously for my wisdom teeth, but also for my breast reduction. And it is the strangest feeling. They're like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're out.
Done.
So.
Yeah, I remember it was the first time I'd ever been put under. So I asked him, I was like, how long is this going to take me? And he goes, I guess we'll see how much of a heavyweight you are. And I don't remember anything after that.
Apparently not much.
Apparently not heavy.
And that is it for the first episode of the Overshare Hour. If you've made it to the end, you are officially a part of the Overshare Club, and we love you for it.
If today's episode made you laugh, cry, or feel less alone, consider leaving a review, sharing it with a friend, or submit your story. We want to hear your overshares too.
And if you want bonus content, Q&A extras, or just more unfiltered stories, head over to our Patreon. The link will be in the show notes.
Life's a lot, but community helps. Until next time, don't forget, oversharing is caring.
Bye.
Bye.